as the moderator. Ms. Prawesti has embarked on her journey in the hospitality industry almost 15 years ago. Skilled in negotiation, business planning, and leadership, she co-founded Liberta Hotel International, a hotel management company focused on lifestyle hospitality in 2019. She's also been an active contributor to the World Bank since 2017, specializing in women, business, and the law practice group. Joining her on stage are Mr. Amit Saberwal, founder and CEO of RedDoorz, Mr. Mathieu Rouri, Vice President International Operations, Louvre Hotels Group, Mr. Mathieu Faull, Executive Director and Senior Vice President E-Commerce, Distribution and IT, Swiss-Belhotel International, and Mr. Ramzy Fenianos, Chief Development Officer, Development, Asia Pacific, Radisson Hotel Group.
Hello everyone. Everyone is not here yet.
Hello, everyone left.
Everyone left.
Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. We're so thrilled to have you here today and are excited for our discussions today that lies ahead. And this great panel is basically a unique opportunity for us to delve into the topic of the middle ground, navigating challenges in hotel developments around the regions. And we're so honored today to be joined by a distinct group of panelists. Allow me to introduce once again, we have Mathieu. Mathieu is the Vice President of the International Operations of Louvre Hotel Groups. And then the second panelist we have Amit Saberwal. Amit is a founder and the CEO of RedDoorz. The third panelist is Mathieu Faull. He is the Executive Director and the Senior Vice President, E-Commerce, Distributions and IT of Swiss-Belhotel International. And lastly, we have Ramzy Fenianos. Ramzy is the Chief Development Officer, Asia Pacific of Radisson Hotel Group. So thank you all for joining us today. As we go and then see, the topic itself is very fast and wide discussions that we could spend like 3 hours talking about navigating the challenges of the hotel developments around the regions and Indonesia specifically. So I want to start talking about more into the dynamics of owners and brands as two of the, I would say, crucial players in shaping our industry. And with that also, I would encourage everyone to actively engage with the discussions and take the opportunity to ask questions for our panelists through the app, live Q&A, answering questions on that app. So yeah, let's go first into the topic of the dynamics between brands and the hotel owners. So for this key topic, the topic is actually based on one of the highlights of last year's THINC in 2023 during the Owners Challenge sessions. I would just read, it says that the dynamics between hotel owners and brands have created a tension between expectations and reality. Issues arise from the strictness of brand standards and policy, including and especially about the financial performance achievement. So what is promised is not really in reality. So I would go first with you, Mathieu. Do you think that the tension is still there?
Yes, the tension is still there and will remain. I think this is part of the balance we have between owner and management platform. So this can be tackled in a different way. I think one of the crucial issues we have as a management platform to manage is definitely the human capital of the situation. So human capital, what does it mean? It means that now we know that we have tension on the market to hire people, and the consequence of it is that we are now hiring people, talented people, but hiring people with less expertise, less know-how in the business. So this is a parameter that we have to take into consideration. So as a large hotel group, yeah, so we are already set up with many brand content, I think, and we have it on a different way, e-learning, gamification, etc. But the crucial thing is how do we deliver the brand content and how do we deliver this know-how and expertise to the team in order, to deliver the promises of sales that we made when we signed an agreement with the owner. And the training purpose is definitely something we need to work on. This is we have to change a little bit the mindset. Yeah? So this is something, the handover of expertise and training for the people is something we need to have completely assimilated with the organization and making sure that we will deliver it on a daily basis. Yeah? So this is like, when you are buying the shoes and the shirt of Lionel Messi, doesn't mean that you will play Champions League tomorrow. Yeah? So you need also to make sure that you will train on a daily basis, yeah, to achieve what you want to achieve. So, and this will contribute, and this is what we are requesting our management platform, to go on this virtuous circle, yeah, to make sure that training and development of people will bring a better leadership, will bring some empowerment, will bring some better expertise, because it will have immediately an impact on profitability, RevPAR, guest satisfaction, and then awareness of the brand.
Okay, interesting. We're going to talk more and explore more about the human assets after this key topic. So, we all know that the partnership between the owners and the brands is a long-term one, right? We're not talking about 2 to 3 years, we're talking about at least 10 years. So, in that case, from your experience, how do you align the brand's value and interests with the owner's interests and objectives?
Yeah, thanks, Niken. I think what we do it is slightly differently. I think what we figured out, like for our kind of hotels, which is like 15 rooms, $15, $20. So really the starting point of the hospitality industry, the owners are extremely focused on the amount of money which they make, the ROI. And they are not motivated by long-term relationships. So typically, our sign-ups would be for about 2 to 3 years with the property owner. And the logic there is that if we can make that owner make more money from his asset, then he can do it directly. Because mind you, he cannot walk into the room and speak to any of the hotel companies here because they won't entertain him for the kind of hotels which we operate. So if we make sure that he makes more money with us than he or she can do directly, then we have every right to renew the contract. And if we cannot do that, then he is well within his right to seek better use of that asset. And so pretty much we do 2 to 3 years, but we have an extremely high renewal rate, so it keeps rolling on and on. But it gives the owner a sense of flexibility, that it's a short-term commitment.
Okay, so are you suggesting that it depends on the market? Is it the mid-scale to lower segment, or is it the luxury to ultra-luxury market in that sense?
I can only comment, of course I was a hotelier with the luxury segment in my previous avatar. But for sure that makes sense for long-term contracts because of various reasons and the dynamics there. But when we start looking at the small hotel owner, like an SME, 15, 20 room kind of property owner, trying to impose the rules of a larger hotel brand to them. And what we heard in the panel today in the morning, especially for franchising and third-party operators, etc., it seems that the holy cows of operating hotels between the brand and the owners have been also been changing, even at the top end.
Okay. Matthew, from your experience, to what extent brands allows owners to, kind of give insights to the hotel performance, even to the most extreme situations, maybe interfere with the brand strategy in order to enhance the performance of the hotel itself?
I think when you start talking with an owner, prior to engaging a hotel management contract with them.
Yes.
Many hotel chains have different brands, and all the different brands have different expectations from the customer. And part of your journey with the owner at the start is introducing them to your different brands, what the customer experience is, what the customer expectations are, and that sort of sets the mood for the type of hotel you want to build with them and what they want. And from that point, you're doing things like explaining, okay, these are the mandatory USPs, these are the optional ones, these are the requirements, and you get that owners of buy-in to help you build the hotel that they want and one that you think is going to physically return to them, of course, but also is in line with, as a chain, obviously, your customers have certain expectations for certain brands. Obviously, some brands have more expectations than others, more different expectations. And so it's more that journey for the owner to start to help them understand what you need and they explain to you what they need physically and how you think you can work with the market. So there's always a tension there. You just work together from the start, you move on from that, and then you have fun hitting your yearly numbers and
Yes.
hopefully succeed.
Right, so the conversation is going on and it's always open with the owners, right? Are you suggesting that?
It's always going on. I mean, there are certain mandatory requirements, with respect to health and safety, with related to the guest experience, but there's obviously areas that can be flexible, which adapt to that particular market, source markets and so on. But that's a journey you do with the owner. So some things can be flexible, some things aren't.
Yeah, and from your experience, the HMA is one of the very fundamental tools in laying down the vision's alignment between both parties.
Yeah, I mean, HMA is a contract, but a contract is an agreement between two parties, which sometimes negotiate from the start, and obviously 10 years is a long time, things change over that time. So you have to adapt things and you have to work together on that.
All right. Because I'm sure like most of us understand also that most of the HMA contract is a standardized contract. So to what extent maybe the negotiations is, can be put into place, it really depends on the dynamics of the both parties and the openness.
Oh, absolutely, and then obviously, yeah, what's the HMA for one brand might be put to another one.
Ramzy, do you have thoughts on that?
You want me to answer all the questions? I would say LADA is moving very actively because I don't think all the contracts are the same. And having worked with LADA for decades, every contract is different and every company has its own contract. So I think from that perspective, it really depends on the ownership type, the operator, the brand, the location. So there's many factors that go into that. I'd like to come back to your first question on the tensions. I think healthy tensions are always good. There's a difference between unhealthy tensions and tensions that are keeping the operators and the owner in their place. I think on a regular basis, there should be expectations set on a yearly basis, which is the budget and the approvals of the budget with the owner, the asset managers and the operators. And then on a monthly basis, there's always also reviews of those expectations. So expectations should be set on a yearly basis for budget reasons, on a 3-year basis for capex and renovations. And I think if those expectations are not set, then of course it's a recipe for disaster. Sometimes some owners have expectations that are unreasonable, and this is where we sometimes get experts to come and be a neutral party to be able to unlock those kind of situations. But in general, I think the expectations from owners are always high, and I think that's normal for operators to accept that, because at the end of the day, like it or not, the hospitality sector has moved completely. We used to be dinosaurs, and I think that the evolution of human, the new generation in hospitality, the new tools that we have, the IT tools, the AI that we talked about, kept operators on moving faster than what they wanted, and some of them are feeling uncomfortable with it. So I think we need to catch up with the new trends, the new tools, and the new mindset of owners. I mean, you look at Bali, Indonesia, most of the owners are families, that have worked all their life to earn money and invest into hotels, and now we see the new generation coming in place, and those kids are sharp. So I think, yeah, part of the evolution is also being able to cope with it and accept tensions that are healthy.
Yes, yes. I think we all agree now, and I hope people don't see like tension is something that is negative. It's a good sign that both parties are very into it in order to create a healthier relationship and, you know, for the sustainability of the business itself. So, from your experience, Mathieu, do you see a lot of misalignments in the vision dailies, or in the process of the operations, and how do you usually resolve that? I heard from Ramzy that maybe there are another third parties, that can mediate.
This is like the last solution, just to be clear. I think communication between the owners and sitting down and being very open is the first solution. The expert resolution really is the last resource before even going further. So I wouldn't take this as a general rule to unease tensions. I mean, I'm sure Mathieu does the same, but I will let him answer the question.
I think, we go for a long journey. We go for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in partnership. And one of the key things there is the communication, how do we establish communication with the owner. And each owner is different, the way they are expecting communication with the management platform is different from one to the other. But still, at the end, at the beginning, I think it's very important, to once the HMA is signed, to have what we call a set live introduction meeting, where we are setting, the rules for the partnership, and then establishing the bridge of communication, looking at those bridges of communication will be fine with the owner, showing, that we are very invested in the process. More than that, because the owner are expecting, top RevPAR, they're expecting good customer loyalty, they're expecting profitability. But at the end of the day, we are facing economical downturn, we are facing global events, and we need to be very reactive to show that we are performing under those conditions. We need to anticipate very much what the market will bring, and then so those things again needs to be clearly communicated with the owner. I think giving the truth of the situation is very important. Being transparent about what we do, having those commitments, respected is a key element, and this is what will bring confidence. And this confidence, as a management company or management operator, you will need it, to have a sustainable partnership with your in good time, but in bad time also.
Okay. Other than the economics purpose or goals, is there any other essential goals that owners should also envision and the brand should offer? Other than the commercial goal, like what do brands should offer? We're not talking just only about the payback, the revenue. Do you think there should be another goal that both parties should talk about in order for the longevity of the business, for instance, or the sustainability of the industry?
From my perspective, I think between the management company and the owner, it's obviously not just a commercial decision. Hotels have a good return. There's some things that have a bit better returns sometimes. But the owner and the company should come together on the vision of what the hotel wants to be, the customer experience, the vision, the concept. Hotels, yes, make money, but it's supposed to be a fun, enjoyable place for the guests. And when the owner buys into that, then it becomes a much easier journey to build that sort of operation.
Okay.
I think it's a very emotional, especially in Asia Pacific. Our owners are individual owners. You're not talking Europe, pension fund, insurance companies. Asia is a very emotional business in terms of hospitality. You're talking to individuals, you're talking to families. And I think regardless of the commercial, there should be this strong human relationship with the owners, which I don't have in Europe, we go, we have meetings with AXA, with pension funds, and it's a very mathematical approach on communication. Okay, what's the ROI, what's the IRR, how much did we do, thank you so much, bye, coffee was good, that's it. Here, it takes years and years to build relationship with owners and to get the trust of the owners. And I think that's where, beyond the commercial, which are what they are, is really building this relationship and this trust with the owners that will continue for generation and generations. And I think that's one of the key factors. I would actually put it first, and then the commercials.
Thank you for that answer. I mean, how do you see trust between the both parties?
It's complicated, at least for us, The thing is that we have 4,000 small hotels under our franchise across Indonesia and the Philippines. So what it means is we have 4,000 individual people who we are kind of dealing with. And it's impossible for us to build one-on-one relationship with 4,000. It is possible for us to build a very deep relationship with our top performing properties. But still, trust as a virtue then has to come through all the actions of the brand, what we do, what we stand for, how we treat them, how we resolve differences, how we resolve their concerns regarding occupancy rates, pricing, or whatever they may be. And how every individual in the organization has that belief system to solve their problems to their satisfaction. Because remember, if we don't do that and we don't do it consistently, 2 years later they won't be with us. So for us, we've tried to solve this problem by putting a Pareto that is giving a lot of human attention to the top hotels, but trying to create systems so that the owners have confidence that, okay, these are a good bunch of people to do business with, and if I have a problem, it will get resolved. And that's the best we can do, and it works.
Good point. I think we've also mentioned about the management of the human capital, aligned also with the yesterday's dialogue of the owners challenge. So let's jump into that human capital. We all know that leader, in this case, general manager, hotel manager, plays a very important role in connecting the stakeholders, like in this case, brands and the owners. The leader, the general manager itself should be someone who is good enough, man or woman that can represent a good value of the brand, but also at the same time is expected to be the extended arm of the owners, right? So in that sense, how do you spot a talent for that positions, and what, I would say that what personal traits that should be possessed by a good general manager?
I think, this is a balance between the owner interest and the management platform interest. But we know that, we know that from the beginning, so we know that we will have to work and to deal with it. So I think, again, this is we need to make sure that we will have a regular bridge of communication with the general manager. We need to make sure that there are KPIs, there are expectations, there are targets set with the general manager that we can review with him, that we can share also with the owners. If there are some conflict of interest, it happens, obviously. Then this is also subject to discussion that we will have with the owners. So this is, we need to make sure that all stakeholders involved in this process, are on the same table, and we need to keep up a good level of communication between all parties.
Okay. And Amit, based on your experience, how do you retain talents in an increasingly competitive hospitality landscape nowadays?
Yeah, I think for us, so the individual hotel owners have their own talent to operate, in our case. But our concerns are that we retain our talent, which is at the corporate office, which is highly tech-driven, in an environment where the tech industry, at least not now, thank God, but a few years ago, a couple of years ago, was going absolutely crazy in terms of funding and demand and need for engineers, what was happening. So it was really, really tough. And retaining people actually was one of our key focus areas, even during the pandemic. How do we give them a larger purpose to what we do? Because all of a sudden we are no longer this cool, very, very highly funded, we throw money at the problem kind of company, but like a really real world, dealing with the pandemic and trying to retain a core team kind of company. So it came down to having a larger purpose, trying to pay them at a fair wage, and then hope that they align with what they're doing. Seems to be what.
So it should be more in the corporate office, how to instill that kind of value to the team, so that there won't be so much turnover in that case. Because a lot of, if the turnover is very high, it's not also good for the relationship with owners and stuff. Like today the owners meet with A is gone, tomorrow B comes, and it keeps repeating like that. So that's why I think maybe from your point of view, it's very important to instill that value in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they don't trust they actually will build a relationship with that individual.
Right.
And of course, the company or the brand is like 3 degrees away. But that individual is the one they really build that relationship with. And if it's a revolving door for that individual, I think that's the main upsetting point. They want continuity. Everything else can be resolved. If the person who's trying to resolve it is familiar.
That's an interesting point. Matthew, do you agree with Amit in that sense? The continuity of the same, the owners are expected to be attended to by the same person.
Obviously, having a consistent person to deal with. Let's face it, in most hotels, the owner talks to the GM the most. Yes, they'll talk to on a regular basis to the regional VP operations manager, but usually the owner only has one asset, and that general manager is looking after his baby, his asset. And part of that general manager's job is to run the hotel, but to a certain extent also develop and make sure that asset is well maintained. So you need a proactive general manager that can communicate well, gain the owner's trust as well as the management company's trust, and work with and obviously push for the management company's standards, experience and so forth. So I think it's very important that that particular role doesn't change too often. That said, we tend to find it's always good that people in those roles do change every 2 to 3.5, 4 years, because fresh eyes are fresh ideas sometimes too. So you can move and improve. If you look at the same thing every day, sometimes you don't notice the problems. So.
Okay, thank you. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, I think it's there already. Can we have in the screen questions? Okay, questions about the local value, Ramzy. Maybe you can address that. How do you localize brand standards for each region?
Very good question. We actually had 2.5 years of COVID to think about it. So we came up with a lot of good solutions. I think for us, it's important for any international operator to think international but act local for anything you do. From a brand standard perspective, you're talking about size of rooms, you're talking about breakfast offering. There's a lot of things that we can, and we actually at Radisson we did standardize for each market. And Asia, when I came to Asia 7 years ago, I had no idea about Asia. So, you know, when you travel to Vietnam, the next day you go to Philippines and then to Thailand, it's a complete different culture. You can't really generalize and say it's the same. And I think it's the same for our standards. Every standard needs to be looked at. I always say to the technical team, there should be 60% standards, international, our standards that we've been working on for decades, and then the 40 remaining should be local. I don't want to be waking up after a 12-hour flight in a room and not knowing that I'm in Bali. I think that would be just a wasted opportunity for anyone to give the local flavor, working with local materials, having, to the extent it doesn't become extreme, some interior design elements that are local, to give this flavor to the guest that has traveled the world to come. I don't want to be going to the breakfast area and have an omelette only. I want to be, you know, if you're adventurous enough, experience the gorangs and have, you know, food that is completely different from your daily food that you can have in your house in Europe. So I think it's really the whole experience, looking at local culture, looking at what the people are coming in each destination to experience, and working on that with the owners who have, of course, a lot of experience and culture, history, and listen. And then, of course, make a mix between what guests are expecting as an international traveler, because if they come to our brands, they're expecting a minimum of standards, right? The room, the size of the beds, the comfort of the beds, the showers, which we call brilliant basics, and this should be in all the hotels. And then, of course, localize based on where you are.
Okay. So local value should also be presented both in the products and the service in the industry. But do you agree also that brands should also incorporate local culture and value into the company's training and development programs in the sense of humans asset?
For me as well.
You want to answer that, or?
I'm happy to answer.
All right.
I would like
Go
to
ahead.
give a bit of speaking time to my...
Any other gentlemen can, you know, just add up into the... Okay, the questions was, we all agree that the local value should also be represented in the product and the service of the, you know, the hotels, in any kind of regions, you know. But do you think, should the brands also incorporate local culture and values into the company's training and the development programs in the sense of managing humans' assets?
Yes, I think so. So first of all, you need to have the corporate value. This need to be assimilated into the global organization of your group. Yeah, but then this is part of the localization adaptation of the brand. Yeah? So we are going to different markets, and when we look at Louvre Hotel Group, I mean, the fundamentals of our concept is European based. Yeah? But then we need to adapt it to the different regions. So that means that the localization adaptation will require also an adaptation localization of the brand feature program that we are creating. And then, in order to fit with the regional requirement when we are done developing hotels.
Let's take a look at another questions. The first one is interesting. If an owner agrees to offer you a 50-year contract, that's a long time, ladies and gentlemen, with no exit clauses, would you be willing to offer minimum guarantees of GOP?
I think it's the other way around.
Everyone wants to answer that question. Please do so.
Well, you know, COVID happened, and anybody who's thinking of giving minimum guarantee for long term, just has to look back to what happened 3 years ago. So the answer definitely is no.
But the 50-year contract?
It's even worse.
Yeah, even worse.
If it was a 5-10 year contract, maybe, and you know, in some markets. If it's a 50-year contract, we will give a 0% base fee.
Okay. All right. Next question is, how do you assess risk and value? How do you assess risk and value in underdeveloped micro markets? Underdeveloped micro markets. Okay. Matthew, you want to answer that?
Um,
Maybe in the sense of just to sharpening the questions in the sense of opening a new hotel. What are the, how do you mitigate risk and value in developing hotels in underdeveloped micro markets?
I mean, if it's an underdeveloped micro market, that implies that there's not necessarily the customers going there already. So there's obviously significant risk, and you're probably going to have to work with a partner to work out, can you develop that as a destination and bring the customer there, and what the potential for that is. What does that particular micro market have? So that is a tricky one, and I think it's not something that would be answered by a hotel developer only, but a combination of destination management and other aspects. You'd have to work with, and probably with local government if you want to do something like that. Or an owner that has a significant investment in that area that really wants to develop the entire area. If they're down with that and they have a good master plan, then it's something you can do. If it's just someone that has a random idea, then that's a hard one.
Yeah, all right.
It's also based on our presence, in different regions, and the way we are able to deliver and service, this opportunity of development. So we are very much looking into market research, if that's clear, but this is also how do we perform, the service, and how do we deliver the promises of sales in terms of management for the property. Are we able to do it? Do we have perspective of development, or is it a one-off development? So that's the question we have before making a decision to go on this type of business.
Yeah, and maybe in that sense we need a bigger data to help us in really deciding whether or not we're going to go with that, because it takes a lot of commitment, not just from the owners and the ability of the brands, but also from the government's commitment, for instance, especially in a very specific, untouchable market, right?
I think a lot of data is available on the macro side. If you try to make some effort just to gauge the demand. Of course, you have to look at all the other aspects, but just to gauge the demand, it's fairly easy that you can just go to Google Ad Planner, or just look for Google searches for a particular area, and you'll pretty much have a very good idea what's the general demand. And then specifically, because we have so many hotels, we have a lot of data, lots of micro markets, and most of our hotel owners, if they want to develop another property, even if it's a small property, we can give them fairly accurate occupancy projections, because there's a fair amount of data available with us. But if you're going to a completely new place, I think Google will show you trends, whether it makes sense or not.
Okay. Another interesting questions. The last one. Yeah. As a hotel operator, how do you perceive the role of OTAs as your partners, particularly in light of the pressure from owners to reduce distribution costs? I think this is maybe a challenge also that we need to address in terms of brands-owners relationship. Matthew?
Absolutely, the OTAs are our partners. Obviously, everyone would like to minimize distribution costs. But you also have to remember that your hotel rate is not fixed, it goes up and down. If demand is going up, you raise your rate, and to a certain extent that offsets the commission you have to pay to the OTAs. And one of the things you get from a brand or a chain company is usually they've got negotiated deals with those OTAs to reduce those acquisition costs. So as much as we would like not necessarily to have use OTAs and reduce them, they let us also sell our hotels in a much wider global market sometimes that we can't always reach with our own marketing systems.
Okay.
Yeah, I think OTAs are healthy. I mean, it is a healthy environment where, of course, it shouldn't be the majority of the bookings coming through OTAs, otherwise there's a problem. But I think the OTAs were created because there was a gap in the market. 10, 15 years ago, hotel operators would not respond to a need in the market. And this is where, a smart guy woke up and said, okay, why don't we combine all the hotels together on one page and get them, available on one click. And I think ultimately they keep the operators on their toes, and it's a very dynamic environment. Of course, I think, you know, the fact that we're competing with OTAs on a daily basis, and this also creates more opportunity for us as operators to become better through our loyalty programs, to the offering that we can push directly to the guests. I mean, I personally never book on OTAs. I like the flexibility. Even if I travel to competitor hotels, which I do because I need to be connected with my industry, I book through direct booking because I like the fact that I can cancel 24 hours before. I like the fact that I got upgrades. I like the fact that I can earn points. So there's a lot of advantages that are actually, that I think OTAs are creating for operators to become better and more competitive and being more connected with the guests. So I see it as an opportunity rather than a negative.
Yeah, I think we'll all agree on that. I'm interested to talk about the top 3 issues that need to be solved to make hotel developments more attractive to investors. This is the 3rd key topic that I think we should address. It's about the agility of the brand. You know, what are the top 3 issues that need to be solved in order to make the developments of the hotels more attractive to investors? Just 3. Name 3 maybe. Matthew?
One is mastering the human capital. It's definitely a USP when you are making development.
Okay. Anyone? That's the first is the human capital, and then
I think it's cost. Being able to control cost. We see a lot of owners embarking on the development journey and ending up with a product that is overspec'd. And you know, when you sit with the owner at the beginning, it needs to be clear and defined on what are the expectations of the brand and what are the standards and the specifications for the hotel development. And we've seen it many times where, and again, because it's emotional, that owners get carried with their excitement, and you know, instead of putting this brand, they go for the higher one. But at the end of the day, there's a limit where operators can give returns to owners. You cannot sell a room more if it's 𝐊𝐴 instead of growing. You know what I mean? The consumer is not going to make the difference that, okay, 𝐊𝐴 is the high end of this brand. Growing makes the same, but it's not going to be, I'm not going to be able to charge $10 more because there's 𝐊𝐴 in the room. So I think really being able to control and come up to the owners is our job as operators. Of course, we cannot cost because then the owner has to cost. Let's come up with a clear understanding on the technical requirements and ring-fence the requirements of the brand for the owner to be able to come with a development that actually comes on budget, which we usually see it's above budget, and especially taking into consideration today's construction costs. I think the construction side of the hotel is a critical element in attracting more investors and making sure that they are confident that they will sign on something that will end up open on budget and give them a return.
The source of funding and financial access maybe for the owners in order to, you know, fund basically the project. Yeah. And the last one, that was the second one, and the last one, Amit, maybe you have.
Well, I think that zoning, city planning, and a consistent policy over the long term by any government, local government, gives a lot of confidence for hotels, investors to build in hotels. It reduces the risk factor, and if you just look at a country like Singapore, I mean, they will have a master plan for 2035, clearly displaying zoning areas. This is hospitality, commercial, 5-star plot, 3-star plot. And so it gets very, very clear to people that what could be a 50-year return, 30-year return for a large investment. If that risk is not mitigated, it becomes very difficult for owners. I mean, it's more guesswork, who you know, how quickly you can get the project done or the license done. So if there's streamlining at the top level, it's probably better.
Okay. And still in relations to the agility of the brand, we know that there's no such perfections, you know. So despite the restrictive environments in a particular regions, how do brands keep growing? restricted environments such as the limited source of fund, and then the restricted government or limited government incentive, local regulations, maybe also local value of the people. How do you think that the brands still need to keep growing? How do you stay agile?
We convert competitors' hotels to our brands. That's one of them. And again, I think it's through being connected with owners that know the market, that have been in the market for a while, that know the local authorities in a certain way, comfortable with permits and planning, and have a track record. I think choosing the right owner is very important because it's a long-term relationship. It's a 15, 20, 30-year relationship. So I think choosing wisely the owners is something that we do. A lot of due diligence, and sometimes owners don't like it when you ask for proof of funds or when you ask for things that are related to the project construction or to the permits. But it's really the longevity of that. So I think finding new projects is also finding the right partners.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. Well, we only have like 20 seconds left. Maybe one last question for me. If you could turn back time, what would you have done differently to maintain the brand's agility and resiliency in hard times like COVID-19? It's time for reflections. Mathieu, please.
Good question.
It's hard time for all of us, isn't it? And it's a good platform for us to learn from each other and inspire each other, So.
I think we would have done anything differently, to be honest. We were quite happy with how we responded during COVID. The fact is, to be so, I did, all of us did, is something which we are all quite proud of. So I think as an industry we did well, and we as a company, I think we are quite happy with what we did. And when I honestly think what we could have done better, nothing. At that spur of the moment, that kind of decision making, I can't think of anything I could have done better.
Can anyone add to that?
I don't think there were too many things we could have done that differently. Maybe certain areas the objective should have been to, if a hotel closed, to try and get the hotel open faster. Obviously not at the expense of safety and certain things, but getting things moving again as fast as possible would be helpful, especially from some of the governments.
Okay.
I agree. I think it's just making faster decisions at that time because we're still organized humans. We're hopeful that it's not going to last, and then it lasted for 2.5, 3 years. So I think the fast decision making could have been a bit better, but we're all humans at the end of the day, and hope is in our genes.
I think I can't agree more. So yeah, our time is up. Thank you for the insights, and thank you for the audience for the thoughtful questions. And as we conclude, I still encourage everyone to still open discussions about this, in order for us to make a healthier relationship and more sustained business in the future. So if you still have any questions, please feel free to approach directly to the panelists. They are more than happy to answer the questions. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen, and